Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's 6.5 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on the first day of August. Let's all celebrate.
Woo!
Woohoo.
It's my birthday
August.
month. Yeah.
Oh, is it
Yeah.
really?
Woo.
Oh, well, we'll have to take note of that
Birthday
and abuse
month.
you. This, he gets a whole month. He's
Come
that
on.
special.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Cabana wife believes that as well. She believes that the entire month of her birth is something we should celebrate. I don't know. Well, yesterday was my little sister's birthday,
Oh, nice.
and she's all I did. We've gotten to the point now where we just I'll go to Facebook and say happy birthday. And, that's pretty much it. No, we just got to see each other, and there's a famous picture in my family of that my sister just adores of us looking when we were just little kids. She's probably 3, and I might be 6 or something like that. I don't know, and there's a cake. And she's just enraptured with this birthday cake, and I just have this look like I'm sucking on lemons. and I thought, I knew when I first saw it. I said, well, I know why I'm not happy, because I hate coconut.
Oh,
So
coconut cake.
you put a coconut cake before me, and I assumed this was, for years we assumed this was my birthday cake, and that I was displeased with it, and that she was just, enamored with this little teddy bear cake. And then we noticed, I think maybe about I don't know, we found this old picture, and we've been bouncing it back and forth, and I think we discovered about 10 years into it, that, you know what, that's not my cake, that's your cake. Look at what we're wearing. You were born in July, and we're wearing, short sleeve clothes. This is your cake, and I'm still upset with it. So when
You aren't going to get none.
I wasn't going to get any of that cake, I wasn't going to eat one bite of that cake, so it was Gwen's cake, and I was unhappy about it. So when she came here the other day to visit, and we were a little ahead of her birthday, Cabana wife made her another of those coconut bear cakes,
That's awesome.
and
That's
it was.
sweet.
Yeah, it was, and I didn't have to eat any of it then either. So, hey Mac, it's all seriousness. We got a lot of stuff going on today, and I know that you're watching. Please, the federal grand jury is meeting, and it has to do with Trump, and we don't know what the outcome's going to be, but whatever it is, let us know as soon as you see something.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to break in there,
Will do.
and as well as monitor all the other stuff that's going on right now, and there's a lot of it. Listen, we'll get into Devon Archer day 2, because, when something like that happens, it takes about a day to sort of really figure out what the impact of that was, and the impact of it was pretty serious. We're going to do that in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll be monitoring for whatever happens with Donald Trump and that federal grand jury that is meeting right now. But I think I'd start out with, some 2020 news, and including this remarkable soundbite from the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. You ready? She is. I mean, you talk about. There's an old saying in Washington about denial. It's not just a river in Egypt. She's in complete denial here about where she stands as a politician.
There are reports that say that you have the lowest approval rating of any vice president. I'm curious how much of a role, if any, that you feel race and There are reports that say that you have the lowest approval rating of any vice president. I'm curious how much of a role, if any, that you feel race and gender play in that.
Well, there are polls that also say I have great approval ratings. I think.
Really? Are there? Are there? I'm not sure that I believe that. I mean, listen. First of all, she gets handed this softball question. How much of it do you think has to do with race, etc.? Let's start again.
There are reports that say that you have the lowest approval rating of any vice president. I'm curious how much of a role, if any, that you feel race and gender play in that.
Well, there are polls that also say I have great approval ratings. I think the point that has to be made is that there are attempts to create distractions away from the accomplishments of our administration.
Well, I don't know that there are that many accomplishments of this administration, but let's go back to her first part where she says, no, we have pretty good rating. I have some polls.
That you feel race and gender play in that.
Well, there are polls that also say I have great approval ratings.
Well, I'm going to go through them. I can't find one. The Monmouth poll, those who find her that approve of Harris is 40%. Those that disapprove, 53%. Fox News, disapprove, 56%. YouGov, 49%. Another Fox News has it at 54%, 57%, 58% disapproval. Here's Trafalgar, which was, way back in the spring, but nonetheless, 63% of those who were surveyed at the time found disapproval. I don't find anything where there's a poll out there. What poll is she referring to? Because, Real Clear Politics has all the polls. I don't see a poll in which she feels as if, that shows that, there are polls that find that people like the job she's doing. Overwhelmingly, what I find is that people are dissatisfied with her as vice president.
I think the point that has to be made is that there are attempts to create distractions away from the accomplishments of our administration.
Well, you hang on to that, and we'll see how that plays out to you. Half of Democrats now say if they're so excited about their accomplishments there, maybe they should take a look at this poll. Half of Democrat primary voters think that the Democrat Party should nominate someone else other than Joe Biden in 2024. According to the New York Times Siena College poll, 50% of Democrat primary voters said the party should nominate a different candidate. 45% believe Biden, 80, should be renominated. He would be 86 after his second term, as you know. Despite the large share of Democrats who say it's time to go move on from the current president, the number is down from a year ago. In 2022, 64% of primary voters reportedly wanted the party to nominate someone else. The share has shrunk by 14%. So they are moving in the right direction, but it's because Democrats really are looking around and say, well, I don't know, are we going to have another option? My feeling about the Joe Biden numbers are they are about a mile wide and an inch deep, and that Democrats are pining for somebody to come forward and decide that they're going to run as a Democrat for the presidency in 2024. Beyond RFK Jr., I don't think RFK Jr. has the juice to get it done, but one way or the other, here you have it. As things stand today, 50% of Democrat voters say they want somebody else, despite what the vice president believes. Those are scary numbers. From Reuters, the headline should rattle the Democrat Party. Some black men lose faith in Biden's and Democrats in 2024. They give the story of Bata McConan, a 28-year-old U.S. Army captain from the key voting state of Georgia, is among millions of black voters who helped deliver President Joe Biden the White House in 2020. 3 years later, he is one of the voters who Democrats fear could cost Biden a second term in 2024. Disappointed by what he sees as Democrats lurch to the left, free spending and empty promises, but also turned off by far-right Republicans, McConan says he sees nothing but options, bad options. He's not coming to the Republican side, but he's not at all thrilled with what's happening on the Democrat side. What I'm noticing across the Democrat Party right now is there's a lot of pandering to the black community. It seems like they do a lot to try to make it seem like they're the party for young black men, but they don't back it with anything. They don't follow through. Many black voters expected Biden and Democrats to push new federal restrictions, and they have not been happy with the way Democrats have treated them since they have been in power. Self-identified black Americans make up 14.2% of the population, about 42.7 million people, and that's a 30% jump from 2000. These Americans are 5 years younger than the population as a whole, with an average age of 33. Democrats earning their loyalty is crucial for the party to keep winning in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia, and they're just not there. They're not there. Here's another story, this one from justthenews.com. Biden approval at 39%, as half of Democrat voters say a different candidate should be nominated. This is a Just the News poll. This is a Just the News story. 49% approval for Biden. It makes that 39% approval for Biden. And they want a different candidate. Just 45% in this poll say the 80-year-old commander-in-chief should be renominated. His disapproval rating, which is up from last year, still remains higher than his approval rating. 39% of registered voters approve of the way Joe Biden is handling his job as president. Well, got to be a few out there. 54% disapprove. So, these numbers do not look good for Biden. Now, on the other side of the equation, it still looks to me as if it is absolutely Donald Trump's to lose for the Republican nomination. Let me go to the real first page, go to national. And national polls don't mean a lot because we don't elect presidents. This way we do state-by-state elections and the Electoral College and all that. But it still gives you some sense about the popularity of the candidate. The New York Times Siena poll has Trump at 54, DeSantis at 17. Morning Consult has Trump at 58, DeSantis at 15. Let's look through that Morning Consult number. Trump 58, DeSantis 15, Ramaswamy 9, Pence 7, Haley 3, Scott 3, Christie 3, Burgum 1, Hutchison 0, Will Hurd 1. So Trump leads in that Morning Consult poll. He leads DeSantis by 43 points. And in the New York Times Siena poll, it's 37 points. If you take all of the recent polls and you average them out, Donald Trump leads DeSantis by, on average, 35.8, almost 36%. It suggests that, that there's going to have to be something really dramatic that happens. I mean, and we're standing by, as we speak right now, potential of more indictments against Donald Trump. And every time there is an indictment, you know what happens? His numbers tend to go up. His numbers tend to come up. The loyal base is sending a message each and every time this happens. We don't care. We know this guy. This is our guy, and we don't feel like he's being treated fairly, and therefore we're going to continue to support him because we know it angers the rest of a lot of people out there on the left. It angers them a great deal. So it's happening. We are we're not that far from the first debate, which I think is August 23rd on Fox. I think Trump will not be there. He said, I think the other day, I'll just watch it and decide who might be a good vice presidential running mate, which is really, I think, what it's become. Trump and everybody else. Unless something dramatic changes, I don't see anything that stops Trump from gaining the nomination. But again, we'll watch it and see exactly what happens. On that note, 3:20 on Super Talk 99.7. About Armory Ranges if we could for a while. It's a place to go and learn how to shoot. One of the things about shooting is that you need to go pretty regularly. And I think when you go, you find out that, you need to be back there on a regular basis to remain proficient. So the Nashville Armory is at 4290 Kenilwood Drive in Nashville, 15,000 square feet, which combines retail, classrooms, and, of course, pistol and rifle rated ranges. So you can learn, you can become proficient, and then stay that way. The second location, the Franklin Range at 390 South Winds Drive. There you will find 10 state-of-the-art shooting ranges equipped with automated target controls and custom shooting stalls that provide a virtual private shooting experience. And the folks that work there, they pride themselves on hiring folks with expertise to advise even the most experienced shooter, but also have the patience to guide those who are new to the 2A world. You'll find no attitude and you'll find no pressure. gunsmithing back at the Nashville range. If you're buying your first gun or adding to the collection, you'll find a wide selection of new and pre-owned firearms, suppressors, optics, apparel, and shooting accessories. This is a place to buy, to train, and to become a really good shot. Learn more. Just go to armoryranges.com and let them know your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
Vice President Kamala Harris declines to debate Governor Ron DeSantis, a new school safety plan in Williamson County, and a violation of Polish airspace today. Those stories and more coming up at 3:30. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, well, good afternoon, everybody. Brian Wilson in the chair. Mac Morey there in the new room. He's got all kinds of things percolating and keeping an eye on them today. Chris Weber in the control room. Good afternoon to you, Chris.
Hello.
And I am your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson, and so glad that you're with us on this Tuesday, the first day of August. The dog days of August are here. Now, what is I got 87. What do you got?
I've got some kind of stock information. I don't know, what's that? Oh, 88.
88. So we're pretty close. Well, not too bad. We can live with that.
Oh, nope, just went up 91.
Wow. That happened quick.
It did.
Yeah. Here's news you can use, and probably news you already have observed. You've probably figured this out on your own. Because I know you're alert, cunning, and sly. That's what you are. Gas prices are rising rapidly in Tennessee, according to AAA. AAA reports that over the last week, gas prices in the volunteer state have jumped by 21 cents. bringing the average cost per gallon to $3.38. The average is 29 cents more than it was a month ago, but in retrospect, not all that bad, about 41% lower than it was this time last year. Still, it's going up. And you may be asking yourself, well, why is it going up? I'll get to that in a moment. AAA reports the reason for the jump is a recent surge in the price of crude oil. Okay, hold on to that. Crude oil has gone up. That means that gasoline that they make with the crude oil also goes up. And they also say record heat, which has reduced the output of fuel from refineries. All right, make a note of that. Nashville, $3.44 on average. Memphis, $3.44 a gallon on average. Cleveland, $3.43 on average. Cheapest found in Kingsport, $3.26. Knoxville, $3.31. All right, so there you have it. Why is the price of crude going up? This is what you need to know. GasBuddy.com head of petroleum analysis, Patrick DeHaan, said that refilling the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is pushing up oil prices. DeHaan also noted that Russia and Saudi Arabia cutting production is another reason for the jump in oil prices that has led to gas prices increasing, and argued that the Strategic Petroleum Reserve releases were one factor in the cuts by the Saudis. You got to understand that up until the end of July, or maybe the end of June, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve was releasing oil on a weekly basis to artificially drive down the price of oil and gas, and it was helping to add to the supply in the market. Okay, the Russians and the Saudis see this, and they say, okay, as long as you're pumping it in there, we're going to stop pumping it. Well, we couldn't continue to pump oil out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We're right now, the SPR is at its lowest level since 1983. We cannot do that forever. So the Biden administration's plan was to, through the midterm elections and now looking toward 2024, was to, as much as possible, push down the price of gasoline and oil artificially by releasing from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which, by the way, they call it the Strategic Petroleum Reserve because we're supposed to reserve this for times where we have a strategic need. What a concept. Not really meant to help you win elections, not really meant to be played with as a political toy. I think there's something to be said about maybe on a short-term basis sometimes. Let's say, okay, we have a hurricane that takes out a bunch of the fuel in the Gulf. Maybe that would be a good reason for a short-term release. Maybe you have a hurricane takes out a couple of refineries at the same time. That's what it's for. You might do that, but just to politically drive down the price of gasoline, not necessarily the best use of the SPR, in my opinion. So understand that when you see the prices going up, it's just the inevitable, because they've been artificially held down by the release of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve by the Biden administration, and now they are in the process of doing everything they can to fill up the petroleum reserve, and by doing that, what you find that it's causing the cost of gasoline to go up. Let me just look at oil real quick. And let's see, here we go. Oil. West Texas Intermediate crude, $81.68 a barrel. Brent, $85 a barrel. So it's coming down a couple of cents today, but overall it's on track to go up. Just remember, when you're filling up the tank, it's because of the mismanagement of the Biden administration that you are now facing higher gasoline prices. And guess what? They can't keep going back to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And they've done everything they can to shut down drilling of natural gas and oil in this country. Those prices are on them, and don't forget it. 31 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
30 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories right now. 92 degrees in Nashville. We got a traffic report, weather forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Vice President Harris has declined Florida Governor DeSantis' invitation to debate his state's new slavery instruction policy. Andy Field brings us the latest.
Presidential candidate Ron DeSantis continuing to defend a Florida teaching directive to tell students there was some personal benefit to slaves. He asked Vice President Harris to a roundtable to discuss it. She RSVP'd, no thanks.
There were no redeeming qualities of slavery.
DeSantis continues claiming the new curriculum doesn't say there were benefits, despite a document that says in some cases there were.
Right now in Tennessee, Williamson County has now launched a new school safety plan for this year. This comes after last school year where police had to investigate 250 student threats, ending in 45 arrests. And in this new plan, Williamson County Schools and the Sheriff's Office said that they want to focus on how families are communicating with their children about safety. Channel 4 says that some of the things to note from today's presser were all outside doors will be locked at all times. SROs will be in every building. Larger buildings will have 2 SROs. Students should not open doors. Dogs will be used to search schools for drugs, and any drugs are illegal in school zones. Zero tolerance offense, and threats are going to be taken more seriously. So 2 or more mass violence threats from a student, and that student will be sent to an alternative learning center for a full year. And the first day of school in Williamson County is Friday of this week, which will be a half day. And there was a violation of Polish airspace by 2 Belarusian helicopters that were training near the border. The Belarusian side had previously informed the Polish side about that training. Pentagon spokesman Brigadier General Patrick Ryder today was asked to comment on the incident.
When it comes to Polish defense, I'd refer you to the Polish Ministry of Defense, other than to say that, again, we will continue to take NATO's security very seriously. And we will continue to work together with our NATO allies to ensure that every square inch of NATO remains safe.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
All right, Genesis Diamonds opening up the vault for their largest GIA diamond event ever, starting Saturday for a limited time. All Genesis GIA diamond engagement rings will be marked down 20%, okay? Are you paying attention? 20%. This means you can buy like a dealer buys with deep discounts on over $10 million in stunning diamond rings. These remarkable savings are on every GIA diamond engagement ring from a half carat to 20 carats, all shapes too, rounds, princess cuts, cushion cuts, emerald cuts, ovals, pear shapes, whatever you want. Remember, all Genesis diamonds are hand-picked. They come straight from the diamond cutters and are graded by the GIA, the most prestigious gem lab in the world. At Genesis, you know their everyday prices are unbeatable, but for this event, they're taking value to a whole different level with an additional 20% saving. So don't miss this chance to save like never before on that exquisite diamond ring. Buy like a dealer buys. Starting Saturday for a limited time exclusively at Genesis Diamonds. Limit 1 per customer. 2 locations, Green Hill and Cool Springs. See store for details. 39 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. So glad that you're with us here on the first day of August. Let's get through some stuff here. By the way, can I just share with you? Yesterday, this is very loud for me. Yesterday, I was complaining that I had a situation with gnats in my studio.
Yeah.
I mean, completely overrun by gnats. And I mean, they were trying to fly up my nose. They were trying to fly in my mouth. And, they would get in my vision. They would get on my paper. I mean, I was swatting the whole day.
You were,
and
yes.
I was trying to figure out, what should I do? And several people suggested this solution, which I have tried. I took a little sort of flat dish saucer, put a little bit of apple cider in it, covered it with saran wrap, poke little holes in the saran wrap with a knife or something sharp, and just put that somewhere in the room, away from me. So back there on the table behind me, right next to Larry Goatland, is my little dish with the apple cider, and I'm not having any. Well, I've seen one or two, but they haven't been near as bad as yesterday.
Nice.
And you go over there, and they all crawl down into the holes. They can't figure out. Gnats aren't very smart, I guess. They can't figure out how to get out.
Yeah.
So it has worked.
Perfect.
If you are suffering from gnats, I wholeheartedly recommend this as a solution to your gnat problems.
Very good. Yeah.
That's
easy.
right.
Cheap, too.
Yeah. I mean, I thank goodness Cabana wife has everything in her cabinet. You don't have to, you don't even have to go to the grocery store. Just go and peruse her cabinet. You'll find whatever you need. We won't run out of food in this house until maybe a year or two from now. Climate change. We don't talk enough about climate change, and it was something that Phil Valentine talked about a lot. He was a real expert on it, and I don't feel like I'm near the expert that Phil was. But this story just is another example of how the climate alarmist keeps saying things, and then when you start digging down on it, trying to figure out what's really going on, you find out, well, it's not what we've been told. Climate change has not set the world on fire. Everybody's talking. We got all kinds of wildfires, and somehow the climate group, the greenies, they all seem to think, well, this all has to do with climate change, and that's why we have seen so much of our land on fire. I think a lot of times with climate change, the climate change bunch, they're always looking, and they're saying, well, there's an increase in, for example, tornadoes. You know what? I don't think there is an increase in tornadoes. You know what I think there is? I think there's an increase in the technology that catches where the tornadoes touch down. We've got better Doppler radars. We've got them everywhere. So, yeah, when you look back over the history, it seems as if we have more tornadoes. Do we really have more tornadoes? No. We probably have the same number of tornadoes, but we certainly have the kind of equipment. Every television station's got a Doppler radar now, right? So, we find them. We see more of them because we have better technology that can see them. And that may be true here with the climate change group. One of the most common tropes in our increasingly alarmist climate debate, writes the Wall Street Journal, is that global warming has set the world on fire, but it hasn't. For more than 2 decades, satellites have recorded fires across the planet's surface. The data are unequivocal. I love it when they say the data are. You don't hear people, you expect the Wall Street Journal to do that. It just warms my heart when we get data.
Sounds wrong, though.
No, it's not wrong.
It sounds wrong, though.
It's not wrong.
But it sounds wrong.
Data are plural.
All right.
The data are unequivocal. Since the early 2000s, when 3% of the world's land caught fire, the area burned annually has trended downward. So in 2000, 3%, we know this because we have satellites. And they show us this. 3% of the world's land was on fire. 3%. 97% was not. In 2002, the last year for which there are complete data, again, they did it right, the world hit a new record low of only 2.2% burned area. You will not find that reported anywhere except right here. The media acts as if the world is ablaze. Late 21, the New York Times employed 40 staff on a project called Postcards from a World on Fire. But they don't look at the ultimate statistic that the number of wildfires in the world since 2000 has gone down, not up. So, take that, and next time they try to tell you, well, look at the wildfires. Well, what about the wildfires? In the case of American wildfires, most of the problem is bad management of the land. A century of fire suppression has left more fuel for stronger fires. Even so, last year, U.S. fires burned less than 1/5 of the average burn in the 1930s. Likely only 1/10 of what caught fire in the early 20th century. When reading headlines about fires, remember that other climate scare tactics that have produced duds. Polar bears were once the poster cubs for climate action, yet it is now estimated to be more populous than at any time in the past half-century. We were told climate change would produce more hurricanes, yet satellite data show the number of hurricanes globally since 1980 has trended slightly downward. Global warming is a real challenge, they say, but take a look at what's going on, and you'll find out that it's not responsible for all of these dire things that the Green New Deal folks would have us believe. Just remember that. So many things that we hear, we take for granted, but when you really do the research and you really look at it, objectively, what a concept. Objectively, what you're going to find is climate change has not caused more wildfires. It hasn't killed off the polar bears, and some of the other things that you claimed simply have not developed and simply, quite frankly, are not true. Second story has nothing to do with that, but I think it's interesting. A question being raised about who's buying up land around major Air Force base in California. We're talking, I guess it is about Travis. Yes, here, Travis. Listen to this story from thehill.com. A mysterious investment company is buying up large tracts of land around a California Air Force base, raising questions about who's behind the firm and its intentions. This comes amid growing fears about Chinese businesses acquiring land near American military sites. Now, the investment firm is called Flannery Associates. It has bought around $800 million worth of land, $800 million worth of land around Travis Air Force Base in Northern California in Solano County, which is halfway between Sacramento and San Francisco. That is in the northern part of the state. Flannery Associates filed a lawsuit in May against a group of landowners accusing the farmers of conspiring to inflate the value of the property, drawing further scrutiny from policymakers, including Representative John Garamendi, a Democrat of California. Flannery, registered as an agricultural company, has purchased more than 50,000 acres in Solano County, and detailed maps obtained by The Hill. The acquired property runs directly up to, you guessed it, Travis Air Force Base. Garamendi, a House Armed Services Committee member, told The Hill that he's been investigating the land acquisitions for nearly 2 years and has come up with few answers. We have no idea who they are. Flannery Associates is opaque. We have no idea where the nearly $900 million has come from. They bought well over 55,000 acres in the area, and the purchase raises a major concern. And The Hill reached out to try to contact Flannery Associates, but the firm claims that 97% of its investors are U.S.-based, but Garamendi said there's no way to verify that claim. The business registry for the company is located at a packaging shop at a shopping center in Folsom, California. So they got a post office box. The land is dry farmland, good for agricultural grazing, but the approaching $1 billion price tag seems astronomically high and would take decades to turn a profit, according to Garamendi, who also noted there are wind turbines on the land. So the Air Force Foreign Investment Risk Review Office is reviewing the land purchases, trying to figure out what's going on. Nobody seems to know why people are able to buy up 50,000 acres of land, spending astronomical sums to do so, and it just happens to be near one of our more sensitive Air Force bases in the entire country, Travis Air Force Base. Inquiring minds want to know, who is Flannery? I don't know. Sounds Irish. Seems like there's,
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
It is Irish. My little sister's name is Flannery.
Is that a bunch of Irish people have bought up land? I don't think so. I don't think that's it. Flannery Associates. Well, we'll keep on this story. We'll keep watching, see if they ever develop a good clue for who Flannery Associates is. 50 minutes past the hour, 3 o'clock.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
Another indictment expected today, any moment, for former President Donald Trump. A shooting in East Nashville, Tesla drivers getting locked inside of those cars, and a missing teenager in Tennessee. That and more coming up at 4. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, it's 56 minutes now past the hour. Let's go through all the markets. The Dow Jones Industrial ended the day up 71 points, just up slightly. S&P down 12, NASDAQ down 62. So, the S&P slips a bit, and the Dow is up. So we'll see how that all plays out. What's driving the market? Let's check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management right now. John, what's your thought about this?
Yeah, well, I think the market is really trying to digest some information that's going to be coming out, the jobs report on Friday, Brian. I think people are used to going up every day, and the market really took a little bit of a break today. And it's kind of be expected. It was a little bit of a mixed bag. There's a lot of earnings that are coming in. And, you had companies today like Caterpillar and McDonald's that had really good earnings, and that was good for their stock price. And then you have a company like Starbucks that's a household name that really missed their revenue. So sort of a mixed bag. And I think what you're going to see this week is some of the bigger tech companies are going to be reporting earnings on Thursday after hours. And then the big one is going to be the jobs report on Friday that may give us some insight into future Fed rate hikes or not. So that's kind of what the market's trying to digest right now.
All right. Thank you, John. Learn more about all the things they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 58 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
It's 4 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 92 degrees in Nashville. Another sunny, beautiful day. Expecting showers tomorrow afternoon. Got a complete weather and traffic report in 5 minutes. A federal grand jury met today in Washington, D.C., signaling that another indictment could be coming soon. This one would involve January 6th and attempts to overturn the 2020 election. Here's Catherine Falders.
This grand jury typically meets Tuesdays and Thursdays. They didn't meet last Tuesday, but they did meet last Thursday. So again, we just don't know. There's lots of anticipation around this court, inside the courtroom, where there are more than 24 reporters gathered waiting for some news, and outside the courthouse. There's essentially been a heightened security presence, a bit, at least, as we await this potential indictment.
And former President Donald Trump is already facing 2 other indictments, one involving hush money payments in New York State and the classified documents case in Florida. Right now in East Nashville, officers found 29-year-old Eric Reed shot in his apartment on 5th Street. Just happened after 10 o'clock this morning. He died later at Vanderbilt Medical Center, and police are still looking for a suspect. And some Tesla drivers and safety advocates say Tesla needs to make drivers better aware of an alternate way to get out of their cars if a small, somewhat unknown battery fails and they get locked inside. Alex Stone.
In a Tesla, there's the main battery, but many people don't know there's another small 12-volt battery that controls opening the doors and rolling down the windows. It's hard to access, and when it fails, people can get trapped inside. Rick Megason telling our affiliate ABC 15 in Phoenix,
I couldn't open the doors. I couldn't lower the windows.
He was stuck inside the dead car for 20 minutes.
Being caught in there for a couple of hours could be dangerous.
Firefighters say electric car owners need to find out where their emergency release is to open doors if that smaller battery fails. There's a latch hidden somewhere to let yourself out. Some safety experts worry the emergency escape systems are too hard to find.
And a missing teenager here in Tennessee. Franklin County Police are looking for 17-year-old Isabel Agnes Lillian Bolden, who was last seen Sunday night. Bolden's about 5'4" with auburn color hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information is asked to call police. And later today, it's National Night Out, a time to promote police-community partnerships and bring neighborhoods together.
In Hermitage, Metro Police and Box 55 Association will be at the Truck Stop Food Park on Donaldson Pike. They ask you consider donating Gatorade, water, and packaged snacks, which Box 55 uses to help firefighters, police, EMS, and other first responders when they're out on extended calls that might involve SWAT, hazmat, search and rescues, major crashes, or fires. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It's 7 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson here in the chair and on the air on this first day of August. Thank you for joining us here for the drive. It means a lot that you choose us to share your time with as you're driving home. And so, we're on the cutting edge of stuff. Let me draw your attention to what's happening in the swamp. Right outside, right now, there are cameras trained on the front door of the E. Barrett Prettyman Federal Courthouse in Washington, D.C. And this is because there is an expectation raised by Donald Trump that he's about to be indicted again. He's gone on Truth Social and said, I think it's going to happen about 5 o'clock Eastern time. This would be 4 o'clock Middle Tennessee time, so that means right now, any time now, there is an expectation, according to the former president, that he will be indicted. This on January 6th charges is the expectation. And we're watching to see exactly what all that means. Yeah, and look, I'll tell you exactly what I think it means. I think it means, once again, there are going to be indictments brought down and leveled against Donald Trump, and it's not going to mean a thing to the millions of people who support him in America. His numbers tend to go up every time this happens, so I don't know that they can go much higher. Right now, he's 30, 40 points ahead of his nearest competitor for the Republican nomination. And I don't expect those numbers are going to change dramatically. Does he have a greater legal exposure here? I'm just not the guy to ask, but let's see what they come out with. And again, we're watching, and Mac Murray is in the newsroom, and he will bring us the latest information as soon as it becomes available. He's paying attention to this and watching it very closely. In the meantime, we need to go back and sort of revisit some of the stuff that happened as Devon Archer gave an interview, did a conversation. I don't know what you want to call it. It wasn't under oath, so it wasn't sworn testimony, but he did talk to the people in charge of the House Oversight Committee who are investigating Hunter Biden. And Devon Archer, of course, very closely associated with Hunter Biden for many, many years, his best friend, his business partner. And James Comer went on last night to sort of explain what it was that we learned from Devon Archer. And it sounds, as if, James Comer believes this really advanced the case dramatically.
Well, Devon Archer testified that they were influence peddling. We've wondered what the business was. I suspected it was influence peddling, but we heard today from someone on the inside, it was influence peddling. They sold Joe Biden. That's what the business was. And Joe Biden himself talked to every single person that has wired money to the Bidens. You've got a situation here where you look at those people who were wiring the money. A lot of those people aren't the most credible people in their countries. There are a lot of people who are in a lot of trouble in many of these countries who were sending wires to the Biden family. They needed help. They needed help from the government. That's why they paid the Biden family. They were influence peddling. The FARA violation, that's Foreign Agents Registration Act, we know that Hunter Biden has violated that. Even the judge in Delaware last week cited that as one reason why she rejected the sweetheart plea deal. But what this did today, in my opinion, is open the door. Did Joe Biden violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act? Because he was an active participant in at least one deal we know of with the Burisma deal. He was actively participating in doing a benefit to this foreign agent for this foreign country, and he was withholding American tax dollars in the form of foreign aid for that. This is very serious. Today took a huge step towards implicating Joe Biden in many of these crimes. We're going to continue to press forward in our investigation.
Well, that's something. Devon Archer coming out and, James Comer coming out and said that Devon Archer's testimony was very much helpful in trying to move this from, Devon Archer could provide the testimony that could take this to Joe Biden is basically what you're hearing from James Comer. James Comer is not at all that interested in Hunter Biden. Whatever happens to Hunter Biden is secondary. What he's looking at is, was there influence peddling? Was there a this for that? Did a sitting vice president of the United States, was he basically taking bribes? Was he basically, influence peddling. And it seems very clear when you hear what Devon Archer has added to the conversation that may well be the case. So we're getting, I'm telling you, each and every day, you laugh at me for doing this, but this drip, drip, drip just keeps coming at each and every day. The information that gets added, the collective information that gets added, makes a stronger and stronger case that the vice president of the United States back during the Obama years, Joe Biden, was on the take. Was you need me? Go see my son. You need something from me? Go check in with Hunter and Devon and all of his business partners. Jonathan Turley is a man I deeply admire because Jonathan Turley, I don't know that he's all that much a conservative, but he's a believer in the law and what the law says. And his assessment on this, I think, is pretty damning.
Well, from the accounts that we have gotten out of that meeting, they are breathtaking. You're talking about at least roughly 24 calls in which then Vice President Joe Biden engaged with the business associates of Hunter Biden. You're talking about meetings and dinners with some of the most corrupt figures in Europe. And Joe Biden calls in to say hi. They were talking about subjects like getting rid of the prosecutor in Ukraine. And then up pops a call from the vice president. You can no longer ignore this despite the denials of many Democrats. What was really incredible was after hearing these statements, Representative Goldman came out and basically said, oh, he was just being a dad talking about niceties.
Goldman being a Democrat from the House who was there in the meeting.
Well, it's at some point it insults the intelligence of voters. Yep. We're looking at one of the most significant corruption scandals in our history. And I've been a critic of influence peddling for decades. I've never seen anything like the scope of this scandal. And yet, we'll have to see which members choose the public over their party. And so far, we haven't had a lot of them coming from the Democratic Party. The Biden family has been accused of influence peddling for years. The president's brother has been rather open in selling access to Joe Biden. So has Hunter. We saw that in some of these shocking messages where he was actually saying, I'm sitting next to my father, send me the money or we'll effectively ruin you. It was also evident in messages where Hunter Biden told his business associates, this is what we do. This is what the Bidens are good at. Well, it is what they're good at. They've made millions, but it's now falling apart because the Democrats lost control of the House and they have started to investigate these matters. And every day we reach a new shocking level of corruption.
He's right. He's absolutely right. A new shocking level of corruption each and every day. We get new information and the drip, drip, drip just continues day in and day out. And it's closing around Joe Biden. Joe Biden has got, I think, some real problems on his hand. And so, what happens? And we don't care about Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is secondary to the whole thing right now. I mean, he's, his case is being revisited by the judge. We'll see where that lands. But really, the thing that the House Oversight Committee has always been focused on is there any connection between the things that Hunter Biden was doing and the things that, then the old man who was vice president, did he do a this for that? There sure seems to be a pretty convincing case that he did, at least in the case of Burisma. He's even admitted it. So what happens? I think we are headed for an impeachment inquiry. And I think after the impeachment inquiry continues to fill in the gaps, we're going to hear a lot more about the idea of just going forward with impeachment. Now, what is it? What is an impeachable offense? Anything that the House of Representatives decides it is. That's really the short answer. Whatever the House of Representatives decides, and in this particular case, it's a Republican body, but just barely. So do you have a strong enough case after the impeachment inquiry to go forward with impeachment? I think it's beginning to look as if you do. And that will be happening through the fall and into the spring. Joseph Biden's going to be answering some very tough questions and facing the possibility of impeachment. And you know what? The fact is, even Democrats understand that he's probably done these things. They get it. That's why I have always said I honestly do not believe that Joe Biden will ultimately be the nominee. He's got legal problems. His numbers are not good. I think Democrats will eventually find a way to ditch Joe Biden in favor of some other candidate who is yet to emerge, but, you know, names have been tossed around. Gary Shapley is one of the IRS whistleblowers. How does he feel about everything that has come so far? Quick soundbite from him.
There remains a lot of work to be done, and we can't emphasize enough how important it is that they continue to bring in witnesses, because each witness that comes in is providing more and more evidence, and it cannot be denied.
Can't be denied. Representative Byron Daniels had listened to some of what was talked about yesterday with Devon Archer.
If my wife or my son say, hey, Dad, come to dinner, or hey, can you come to dinner? One of the first questions out of my mouth is, who's at dinner? I just don't show up just because, especially if you're the vice president of the United States. So this stinks to high heaven. It is influence peddling. It is public corruption.
It is. It's really beginning to. And why? How far do we have to go to prove this? I think we're getting there. I think we're there. This whole thing smells to high heaven. Joe Biden's got explaining to do, and I think ultimately faces impeachment by the House of Representatives. The question is, will the Senate have the integrity to pick it up and actually take it to trial? I hope that they do, because it would be in the best interest. We need people to understand what Joe Biden is. And it sounds as if with the testimony or the conversation they had yesterday with Devon Archer, they're closer and closer. They got a whole bunch of new bank records that have just come in. The House Oversight Committee does. Each and every day, the subpoenas that they have put out there are starting to pay off. And the drip, drip, drip just gets, it just starts to make it look as if there's just a very strong case to be made that Vice President Biden, now President Biden, is a crook. You just can't put it too plainly. He's a crook. It is 20 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. In times of market and economic volatility, gold and silver just might be the safe haven you're looking for. It's Brian Wilson for Nashville Gold and Coin. And if you're looking to buy real, actual, hold it in your hand, gold, silver, or bullion, let me tell you, this is the place I do business, and it's the place I recommend. You'll get honest, friendly customer service and a real precious metal education, which is what you want. Now, they also specialize in the buying and selling and appraising of coins. Do you have any idea how much those old coins you have laying around might be worth? I'm going to tell you my story. I brought in a few silver coins that I had in a shoebox, buried in my sock drawer. It turned out to be worth $1,652. That's right. Whether you're in the metals market to purchase precious metals, or you just want to find out what those coins in your closet might be worth, schedule a one-on-one consultation today. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.
Another indictment could be coming soon for former President Donald Trump. A fatal crash today in Springfield involving a train. And we'll go over to Wall Street, see what happened in the market today. That and more 30 minutes after the hour, 4 o'clock. Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson, and I am your friend and radio buddy, and it's the first day of August. And, absorb that. We've cut women where we are this year. I just zipping by. We're well past the halfway point now.
Good, because it's too hot.
What did you tell me yesterday? You thought the halfway point was what? July?
It's July 2nd, I think, is
that's
the halfway
point of the year.
Yeah, because we've completed 6 full months, something like that.
Makes
July
sense.
1st, July 2nd, somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah.
All right. Well, August is going to be hot, and then we'll be headed into cooler weather. So, let's just, look. Let's try to hold through August and then be excited about September, October. Oh, my favorite times of
Football.
year.
Yeah,
Football. Well, of course, there's that, too. No doubt about that. The president's policies with regard to the border continue to cause problems. And, I love this. There in New York City, the mayor is just fit to be tied because so much, so many migrants have been shipped there. After all, it was a sanctuary city. And so, a lot of migrants have ended up there. And now I was seeing some of the reporting on Fox Business today. And if the situation there is getting dire, they got no place to put people. They're running out of room, and now they're screaming. And they're actually, I'm not making this up, they're actually now thinking about doing away with being a sanctuary city. That was a big mistake. We got to change that. They keep going to the Biden administration and asking in New York City, help us. And they're not getting any help. Here is New York City Councilman Bob Holden, a Democrat. Listen to how this Democrat speaks about the Biden administration and their border policies.
That's not a plan. That's an insult. A liaison? Are you serious?
See, he's upset because they didn't send anybody down to solve the problem. They just sent somebody down there from the Homeland Security Department to say, hey, I'm your liaison. I'm here to help you. And he's not happy with it.
That's not a plan. That's an insult. A liaison? Are you serious, Mr. President? You dump, and I'm going to call it that. It's unfortunate, but these are human beings. You dump over 90,000 migrants, unvetted migrants in New York City, and then we get a liaison. That's a kick in the head. It's essentially the president is saying to the mayor, drop dead. You have a president that's showing no leadership whatsoever, and he's my party. I'm embarrassed. We should not reelect President Biden if he's going to do this to New York City or any city in the United States.
How's that policy working out for you there, Joe? I mean, here's a guy who says he's a Democrat. He sits on the city council in New York. He's furious about what's happening and about the problem that the federal government has put on his doorstep. And he's actually saying, you cannot, as a Democrat, we cannot vote for Joe Biden. And by the way, in New York City, they actually are now thinking about doing away with the sanctuary city designation. Look, I don't have a lot of sympathy for the people in New York. Because they are getting hit, by the Biden administration. The Biden administration had a policy, and it was basically, we're going to let as many people come in as we possibly can. We'll sort it out later, or we won't sort it out later because you can't find these people. Millions of people have come across, and they just end up in major metropolitan areas causing a problem, and it's been a real problem for the city of New York. And now that they say I read, what is the statistic? Yeah. They got $104 million to help them with it. You know what, how far that gets them down the path? It gets them 14 days down the path. $104 million is able to help pay for the housing and the needing and the care of these migrants who have shown up in New York City. Gets them through 14 days, and they run out of money. That's how serious the problem is for the city of New York. And it's happening in other major metropolitan areas around it. Democrat cities are also finding that they are overrun by the migrants that have come across this. And it's all Biden administration policies that have led to this problem. But I just think it's remarkable that Democrats in a Democrat stronghold are so irritated about what has happened with regard to this border issue that they are now saying, we cannot vote for Joe Biden. Democrats actively arguing we can't vote for him.
And Brian, this just in from Fox, former President Trump has been indicted on charges out of special counsel probe into January 6th.
All right, so that has just happened. All right, listen, it is 30 minutes now past the hour. I'll try to get up to speed on what we can learn about that while we're in the news with Mac Morey. It's 4:30.
4:30, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 91 degrees right now in Nashville. Forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. And you just heard me gave that breaking news from Fox. Former President Trump has been indicted on charges stemming from the special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into the Capitol riot on January 6th. This is the second federal indictment the former president faces out of Smith's investigation. And Trump, who leads the 2024 GOP presidential primary field, has already pleaded not guilty to 37 counts related to his alleged improper retention of classified records from his presidency. Here in Tennessee, a person died in a crash that included a passenger car and a train in Springfield today. The crash happened around Matthews Road and Kinney's Road, and we're learning more on this. You can stick with Super Talk for the latest on this ongoing story. Now over to the money news. Daria Albinger.
Stocks closed mostly lower to start the month of August. The Dow rose 71 points after briefly touching the highest level of the year. The Nasdaq gave up 62 and the S&P fell 12. Among the companies reporting after the close, Electronic Arts, which had numbers just shy of analysts' expectations, and Starbucks with slightly better than expected earnings. Employers posted fewer jobs in June, a sign that the red-hot demand for workers, a key feature of the post-pandemic economy, is cooling off a bit. The Labor Department says openings fell to 9.6 million, down slightly from May, but much lower than the 10.3 million in April and the fewest jobs in more than 2 years. A vintage Apple computer signed by company co-founder Steve Wozniak is being sold at auction. The Apple One, which was built in Steve Jobs' garage, originally sold for $666 and could get about $200,000.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the folks over at Busy Bee HVAC. That's right. They are a good company that will solve your problem with your air conditioning. You got a problem right now? Just, give them a call at this number, 615-775-7833. They will buzz right over to your beehive, and they get you up and running. And if you get to the point where you realize, well, you know, we've just pushed that old AC unit as far as we possibly can, and it's time to replace that, you're never going to find a better value on HVAC and plumbing replacement than you will over at Busy Bee. You might want to check out becoming a member of the Beehive Club. I certainly am, and I think it pays off. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling at 775-7833. Learn more online at busybeehvac.com. It is 38 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock. Man, we got stuff happening here. As you heard in the newscast and just before the news, Donald Trump has been indicted on charges from a special counsel probe into January 6th. I'm going to give you a chance to respond. The phone lines are open, 615-737-9986. Love to know what you think about this, because if past is prologue, then what we're going to find out is it doesn't matter to you. A large number of people who support Donald Trump just don't care about any of this. And I want to know if this changes anything for you. While we're waiting on phone calls to come in at 615-737-9986, let me just read you the very latest that we have on this from Fox News. Former President Trump indicted Tuesday on charges stemming from the special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into the Capitol riot on January 6, 2021. The second federal indictment the former president faces out of Smith's investigation, who leads the 2024 GOP presidential primary field and has already pleaded not guilty to 37 counts related to his alleged improper retention of classified records from his presidency. All right? Those charges include willful retention of national defense information, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and false statement. Trump was charged with an additional 3 counts as part of a superseding indictment out of that probe last week. The second time in U.S. history that a former president has faced federal criminal charges. This is nothing more than the latest corrupt chapter in the continued pathetic attempt by the Biden crime family and their weaponized Department of Justice to interfere with the 2024 presidential election, in which President Trump is the undisputed frontrunner and leading by substantial margins, which is true. That's from a Trump campaign spokesman talking to Fox News. But why did they wait 2.5 years to bring these fake charges right in the middle of President Trump's winning campaign for 2024? Why was it announced the day after the big crooked Joe Biden scandal broke out from the halls of Congress? The answer is election interference, the spokesperson continued. The lawlessness of these persecutions of President Trump and his supporters is reminiscent of Nazi Germany in the 1930s, the former Soviet Union, and other authoritarian dictatorial regimes. Wow, not pulling any punches there. The spokesperson added, 3 years ago, we had strong borders, energy independence, no inflation, a great economy. Today, we're a nation in decline. President Trump will not be deterred by disgraceful and unprecedented political targeting. The indictment comes after Trump has announced he received a target letter from the Justice Department, which also asked that he report to the federal grand jury. Trump said he anticipated an arrest and indictment, and it was not a surprise that this happened today, but it certainly is a new development. Okay, so where are we? Where are you? 615-737-9986, because I have a feeling what we're going to find out here is that it doesn't matter one whit to you, and that's fine. That's as it is. Let's put a button on it. See what you say. Aubrey in Murfreesboro. Aubrey, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say?
I say that President Trump exposed them all. He has shown us their corruption. We have the most corrupt government that we have ever had in this country, and yes, I will still vote for him 100%.
Aubrey, let me ask you a question, and I'm only asking because I want to know how strong your support is and how unwavering it might be. You know, if this happens, and it's entirely possible, there could be trials beginning in the spring. I don't know, about the time of the Iowa caucuses. Change any? Are you going to be willing to endure all that? Does it change anything for you?
100%. He has endured for us, and I will not leave him.
All right, Aubrey, thank you. Let's head on to David in Hendersonville. David, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, David?
How you doing, Brian?
I'm well. You?
Thank you. I'm doing good. It tease me off. They keep going after this man. I don't care if they lock him up. I will still vote for him. Then we've got the most corrupt person, and I won't, he's not my president is Donald Trump.
All right, David.
Right now, he's not president.
All right, David. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Let's go to Tim. Tim in Spring Hill. Tim, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Tim?
Brian, I'm just disgusted with our present administration so much, and it's absolutely what Aubrey said, your first caller. Right. He's exposed how much corruption there is, and they're so afraid of him that they're willing to make themselves look that bad by indicting him again. And I'm going to support him 100% every time.
Tim, is there anything that would cause you to walk away from Donald Trump?
Absolutely nothing at all.
Yeah, I know. This is unusual. The reason I ask is because it's unusual in politics. That when somebody is indicted, it generally hurts their political future. And here, each and every time that we hear about, there's going to be another charge against Donald Trump, it seems that people just are more strongly committed to him as a candidate. But thank you for that, Tim. Appreciate it. Kenyon in Gallatin, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Kenyon?
Brian, I say that Aubrey and Tim, they're pretty much spot on. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump if he's the nominee, regardless. And all they're doing is making him more powerful. Every time they get another charge on him, the whole Russian collusion, everything that they have done has fallen apart around him. But it's months or years after the fact, and this is going to pass the same way, and people are going to realize Trump says some outrageous stuff, and it always ends up being true. It's crazy, and it's almost like he's Teflon, and everything floats off of him. But I'm telling you, as time passes, this will wash off of him, and it'll all come true to what he's saying, and he's got my vote. And a lot of Americans, most Americans, think the same way. If you voted for Trump twice already, you're going to vote for him again, and there's nothing anybody's going to say to stop you. That's my opinion.
I've joked that he's like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
And that's really true. I think you sort of pointed to that. Thank you very much, Kenyon. Randy, Franklin, Kentucky. Randy, what do you say? You're on with Brian on the Drive.
I'm an African-American. Brother Trump got my vote. And anybody saying a difference about him, they must be lunatics.
Why is that? Why are you so adamant about it? Tell me what drives you to say that.
Because if you look at it, Trump told us the truth. He said, I'm going down there to clean up the swamp. And when he cleaned the swamp out, a lot of alligators and snakes came out, with Biden being number one. And I know for myself that I made more money under him than I've made under any president.
Yeah.
And if any lunatic, say, you call me colored, black, whatever you want to call me, I don't care. But I feel like they tell me, matter of fact, I got voted out of a church because I supported Trump. I did.
Wow.
Because, and what I try to tell them, everything I believe in, that's what that man stands for. Okay? I was raised by some godly parents, and I don't know if the man religious or not, but everything they raised me to believe in, that's what that man put before the American people. And this rascal that we got up there right now needs to be ran out of town on the rail.
All right, Randy. Thank you so much. That was great. Appreciate that. Don in Franklin County. Don, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Don?
Brian, I agree 100% with what everybody's saying. And one thing I would like to kind of piggyback on it is, Trump says every time it comes out, it's not just an indictment against him. It's an indictment against the American people. And, I feel like it's an indictment against myself. I voted for Trump the first two times, and I'm that much more adamant. And I think a lot of people are going to I think we're going to start seeing I'm going to predict we're going to see another 2 or 3 point shift in the polls.
Are you angry?
Oh, absolutely, man. It's so frustrating to watch the obvious weaponization of our institutions, everything, man, from the FBI to the DOJ to the IRS. All them stinking alphabet institutions are so corrupt. Yes, I'm angry.
I know, and I wanted to get at that because that is, I don't think that many people who follow politics in America today, I'm talking about reporters, etc., really understand how this angers people who have supported Donald Trump and how it only makes them more determined to do everything they can to support him. And that's exactly what we're hearing here. Let's go through. We have time for a couple more. Robert in Murfreesboro. Robert, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Robert?
Well, I was a DeSantis supporter. I did vote for Trump both times, but I thought Ron would be able to beat Biden, and I really didn't think Trump could. But after all this, and they keep on, I'm back on Trump's side, and I'll support him through the primary and through the general election.
Robert, I just want to make sure you flirted with DeSantis, but now, and that may explain why DeSantis' numbers have been fading of late. But you've come back to Trump.
Yeah, I've actually donated to DeSantis. I don't think there's that much difference between the two of them, and I thought he had a better chance in the general election. He didn't have, even though I like Trump, it just, there's a certain amount of people that are not going to vote for him because they just don't like him.
Right.
But at this point, no, man. I think honestly, it makes me smile every time they indict him because all I can think is I bet he relocates the FBI headquarters to freaking Alaska or something. I mean, he's gonna clean people out of Washington in ways they never thought they could be cleaned out.
All right, Robert. I just wanted to get a good feel for how you feel there. Thank you. Daniel in Tullahoma. You're up next on the drive. What do you say, Daniel?
Well, I'm a combat veteran. Been to Iraq twice, Afghanistan once. The Democrats, as far as I'm concerned, they just reelected my next commander-in-chief.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. And very quickly, Susan in Spring Hill. Susan, you're up next on the drive. Wrap it up for us.
Yeah, hi. Definitely I'll vote for him even if he's in jail.
It doesn't change you one whit.
Not one way. No.
Are you angry?
Oh, so angry. This is ridiculous. This has been a clown show for the last 2.5 years with those morons in the White House. And every time they come after Trump, his numbers just keep rising.
All right, Susan.
He is for the people.
Thank you so much for the call. Greatly appreciate it. Great conversation right there on the breaking news of the day that there are new indictments leveled against Trump with regard to January 6th. We'll get more details on it as they become available. Right now, 51 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. Hey, listen, I want to remind you that there's going to be a big Beacon Capital event over at the Cool Springs Marriott on August 17th. 10:30 in the morning. It's what they call it is a market halftime. And we're in the middle of the year. Take a look at where the market is. Look at financial trends and opportunities and outlooks for the second half of the year. And you'll hear from a lot of great people. You'll hear from John Maxon and Pete Benson and other folks and I'll be there for the opening remarks. That's right. I'll be there to give you the. I would love to meet you. I'd love to shake your hand, and I'll love to give you my assessment of where things are. Probably more from a political standpoint, but nonetheless, that has, monetary applications, and I will give you that. And listen, all you got to do if you want to find out about this thing, it's Thursday, August 17th, 10:30 a.m. at the Marriott Cool Springs, 700 Cool Springs Boulevard. Reserve your seats by just going to their website, beaconcm.com, or give them a call at their number. You'll find everything that you need to know. The number, once again, is 615-488-9303. That's 615-488-9303. I look to see you there. Look to shake your hand. Looking forward to having a moment with you on the 17th of August. It is now 52 minutes past the hour.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 851-1950. You can do this.
Former President Donald Trump has officially been indicted again. A new school safety plan in Williamson County, and a man attacks another man with a machete over a soda, and neighborhoods coming together in Hermitage tonight. Those stories and more at 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, breaking news changes everything. We're going to get your reaction again in the next hour, but January 6th charges have been leveled against Donald Trump. And Special Counsel Jack Smith is expected to deliver a statement any moment now. We're going to try to go to that no matter what's going on, where we are in the newscast, where we are in a commercial break. We're going to go into this when he has that to say. So stay right here. Breaking news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 58 minutes past the hour. All right, while we're waiting on all of that, let me tell you about assisted family care. One of the hardest things that happens as we grow older is that we see our parents and our loved ones getting older too, getting to an age where they're struggling with their day-to-day lives. The things that were once so simple are now a bit more difficult, and you are coming to the conclusion that they're going to need help. But you're busy. You got your family out there, your family and your needs, and maybe a tough job and maybe distance. So how can you help? What can you do? Turn to assisted family care. They have They have the compatible, responsible helper you need to help with your loved one's daily needs. And don't lose sight of this. If your loved one is a veteran or a spouse or a widow of a veteran, they could well qualify for a little-known benefit to help cover these kinds of expenses. Assisted Family Care has years of experience in helping those who qualify for the benefit to actually get it. You see, many veterans are eligible to receive up to 20 hours of daily living assistance each week at no cost. Not everyone is eligible, but if you're a veteran with wartime service, you could well qualify for the benefit for yourself, for your spouse. It's a complicated process, but don't worry. Assisted Family Care can help. Assisted Family Care is there for you. Visit assistedfamilycare.com or call this number, 615-833-9725.
It's 5:01. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 90 degrees, expecting some rain tomorrow afternoon. Complete weather forecast, latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. So the breaking news, former President Donald Trump has been indicted on 4 counts accused of trying to undermine the 2020 election, and the grand jury agreeing with the prosecution that Mr. Trump knew he lost the election. Pierre Thomas tells us what is outlined in the indictment handed down today.
United States of America versus Donald Trump. Conspiracy to defraud the United States government, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction and attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights.
And Mr. Trump has been summoned to appear before federal magistrate judge Thursday in Washington. And special counsel Jack Smith is supposed to be speaking on this decision any moment, and we'll carry that live right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Right now in Tennessee, Williamson County has now launched a new school safety plan for this year. Here's Channel 4's Brendan Tierney with everything that parents need to know.
School leaders are pushing for parents to sit down with their students to have a talk about why it's so important to follow school safety guidelines. Williamson County school officials will have a school resource officer in every building this fall, but they say the program only works if everyone pays attention to the rules and reports a potential problem. That's why they're launching a new campaign with videos outlining the most important and common threats to school safety. The superintendent says families need to work with school officials to prevent a tragedy.
And some new rules being implemented this year are students should not open doors. Any drugs are illegal in schools, and that's a zero tolerance offense. Threats are being taken seriously. Mass violence threats, 2 or more, and that student will be sent to an alternative learning center for a full year. And last school year, police investigated 250 school threats, which ended in 45 arrests. Police say they want to be more aware of those threats, even if that means those numbers go up. Crime in Tennessee News 2 says that 63-year-old James Earl Stevens allegedly attacked someone with a machete. Stevens had been staying on the victim's couch. They had been arguing because Stevens says the victim took his sun drop. Stevens then reportedly attacked the victim while he was in the bathroom trying to take a bath. Stevens struck the man with the machete on the left arm, and Stevens is now in the Franklin County Jail on a $25,000 bond. And later today, it's National Night Out, a time to promote police-community partnerships and bring neighborhoods together.
In Hermitage, Metro Police and Box 55 Association will be at the Truck Stop Food Park on Donaldson Pike. They ask you consider donating Gatorade, water, and packaged snacks, which Box 55 uses to help firefighters, police, EMS, and other first responders when they're out on extended calls that might involve SWAT, hazmat, search and rescues, major crashes, or fires. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is 8 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock, halfway through the drive, and we've got breaking news here. And breaking news, of course, changes everything. We're just we're sort of tap dancing here as we await some kind of comment from the Jack Smith, the special counsel, who has just leveled an indictment against Donald Trump in connection with his January 6th investigation. Now, I have been going through this, trying to figure out exactly where we are on it. Let me just, it's a 45-page indictment, and it's very dense legal reading. But let me see if I can get you the headline here. Count one, is conspiracy to defraud the United States. And that's the one that they put a lot of the eggs in the basket. The information that backs up that claim goes about 40 pages. Before we get to count number 2, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. Count 3, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceedings. And count 4, the allegations contained in paragraph conspiracy against rights. So those are the major allegations that have been laid against the former president of the United States with regard to his activities in and around January 6th. And again, we're waiting on Jack Smith to explain more about this, and we'll take those comments live. In the meantime, I want to know what you think. The phone lines are open. We may have to tap dance here for a bit. We'd love to have your thoughts about it. I think it angers many of the people within the sound of my voice. That certainly has been the indication thus far. If you want to weigh in on this, 615-737-9986 while we wait. Interestingly enough, and by the way, guys, you alert me if I have my head down here and I don't see Jack Smith come to the microphones. Please make me aware when that happens. Mac Morey, will you do that for me? Okay, good. Thank you. Judge ruled. This is a story that I found on thehill.com. And this has to do with something else, but it is an interesting ruling, and I wonder if it will have implications on some of the other stuff that's out there. You ready for this? A Pennsylvania state judge ruled Monday that an election worker cannot sue former President Trump over statements he made sowing doubt about the 2020 election results while in office, finding that the statements are protected by presidential immunity. Philadelphia County Court of Common Pleas Judge Michael Erdos said Trump's immunity covered a tweet he issued and comments he made remotely from the White House during a Pennsylvania State Senate committee hearing in November of 2020. The statements made without evidence claimed fraud in Pennsylvania's election tabulations, and the judge simply said those comments are covered by presidential immunity. Well, so were the comments he made on January 6th, were they not? Is that not true? If one is true, is the other also true? I don't know what to think, but that's something to definitely look at. Looks like we just got the 2-minute warning. Did you see that? Was that what that was?
Yeah, for a second I thought it was happening, but it looks like they just came up to say, yep, we're coming over here in 2 minutes. So I'm monitoring it.
Well, it's a time-honored tradition in Washington that when you're waiting on a president, that they come in and they say, this is your 2-minute warning, this is your 2-minute warning, and everybody gets ready to go live, and then 2 minutes pass and nothing happens.
And crickets. Yep.
Then crickets. But we're watching it, and maybe we'll get something from Jack Smith so you can hear his side of it. And again, phone lines are open. When we come out of that, we will be moving right to your phone calls, how you feel about it, 615-737-9986. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how far they get with this. Jack Smith, I think, has perhaps overreached here. And I think that you're going to find that, it certainly has political ramifications, and it seems like maybe he's stretched out a little too far on this one. Grasping at straws would appear to me. But we'll wait and see exactly how that all comes out. But again, this whole thing about a judge out of Pennsylvania saying Trump's comments are protected by a presidential immunity. How far does that presidential immunity go? Do we one day down the line find out that there's no way to bring a case against him because he has this immunity that covers him while he is the president of the United States? Interesting case. All right, well, let's while we're waiting, let's go to some phone calls. What? I think things are about to happen, though. Hang on.
I believe so. I'm waiting on it.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far into the phone calls.
Yeah, here we go.
All right, let's listen in as we hear from Jack Smith, special counsel.
Charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. The indictment was issued by a grand jury of citizens here in the District of Columbia, and it sets forth the crimes charged in detail. I encourage everyone to read it in full. The attack on our nation's capital on January 6, 2021, was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. The men and women of law enforcement who defended the U.S. Capitol on January 6th are heroes. They are patriots and they are the very best of us. They did not just defend a building or the people sheltering in it. They put their lives on the line to defend who we are as a country and as a people. They defended the very institutions and principles that define the United States. Since the attack on our Capitol, the Department of Justice has remained committed to ensuring accountability for those criminally responsible for what happened that day. This case is brought consistent with that commitment, and our investigation of other individuals continues. In this case, my office will seek a speedy trial so that our evidence can be tested in court and judged by a jury of citizens. In the meantime, I must emphasize that the indictment is only an allegation and that the defendant must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. I would like to thank the members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation who are working on this investigation with my office, as well as the many career prosecutors and law enforcement agents from around the country who have worked on previous January 6th investigations. These women and men are public servants of the very highest order, and it is a privilege to work alongside them. Thank you.
Why didn't you charge any of the other co-conspirators? A short but very powerful statement from the special counsel.
And there you have it. And what normally happens in a situation like this is they come out, they make their statement, they walk away, they do not answer questions. And so that's the official statement from special counsel Jack Smith. Now I want the official statement from you, listener to Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Timothy in Nashville. Timothy, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Timothy?
Hey, how's it going, sir?
Doing well. What's your thought?
Well, my thought is this stuff gets really old. I mean, you know, they keep trying to indict him, and I don't know how many times they've tried this, or you know, and it doesn't work. You know, and it just keeps piling fuel to the fire. I mean, all my friends are going to vote for Trump. Everybody I know is going to vote for Trump. I'm going to vote for Trump. And they just can't stand it that he might win an election. You know, I don't even know how he lost the last one because I don't even know many people that have even voted against him, you know?
Yeah. All right, Timothy. Let me run through some other people here on the line. Thank you, Timothy. Jerry calling in from Florida. Jerry, what's on your mind?
To me, it means that the investigations of Hunter are getting closer and closer to the truth.
Yep.
And the connection, the connection is they want to divert the tactics. They want to deflect whatever's going on, and that's the way the Democratic Party works. The hotter it gets for Hunter, the more they want to, and the press will absolutely not cover that. They give maybe 1 or 2 seconds to it, and the rest of it they give 10, 15 minutes to what's going wrong with Trump.
Jerry, you are correct about one thing. You cannot look at this in a vacuum. You have to look at what else is going on. And you're right. It almost seems tit for tat. You get a major revelation in the investigation into Hunter and Joe Biden, and then the next day, boom, you know, you've got this. You have to acknowledge that there does seem to be sort of a tit-for-tat measure going on here. All right, Brian in Murfreesboro. Brian, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say?
English very well. I took English 15
Brian in Murfreesboro. Brian, you're on with Brian. I'm sorry, we can't hear you. Steve in Cookeville, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Steve?
Hey, Brian?
Yep.
To quote Peter Finch from his character in the movie Network, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take this much longer.
You're angry.
You're darn right I am.
And how will you express your anger?
Well, if I could do it legally, I'd vote for him at least twice.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Gary in Lebanon. Gary, you're on with Brian on the drive. What's your thought there from Lebanon?
My feelings are, I'm a Vietnam vet. The American people have lost the definition of what I would call is just traitors, being traitors. And
all right, Gary.
All they've done is try to dump Trump because
all right,
they're
Gary.
scared of it. Thank you.
All right, thank you much. Appreciate it. Got to move on. 520 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with when-you-style, transparent pricing, so you will know how much it costs before the care is delivered. That's nice, isn't it? Smart Care plans start at $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year, and because they treat the whole family, even newborns, they can offer family plans as well. Now, you marry all of that with a high-deductible insurance plan that you may have. It's potential to save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast and Music City year after year after year. Grace Point wants you to know they believe strongly in freedom of choice when it comes to vaccines for you and your children. In Main Street, in Franklin, Grace Point Healthcare, 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
Another indictment for the former president comes down officially. Breaks on the Speedway deal here in Nashville. And Lizzo, popular music artist, being sued. All of those stories and more 30 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mac Morey. Great work here, staying on top of all of these breaking developments. If you're just joining us, just getting into the car, as I know people get in the car various times during the day, well, you should know that the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, has been indicted by special counsel Jack Smith for relation to the investigation into the events surrounding January 6th. Four counts against the former president, including this one. Let me see if I can pull this back up. It's 45 pages. Count 1, conspiracy to defraud the United States. They spend a great deal of time in the indictment laying out why they feel like they got a case. Count 2 is conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, and they don't spend much time going into that one. Hang on, turning the page. Count 3, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceedings. Count 4, conspiracy against rights. The Trump indictment also lists, and I'm just pulling this story up, it enlists 6 unnamed, hang on. Well, they just 6 unnamed co-conspirators. And here's a statement from the president, what he has to say about this. He says, former President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social today that special counsel Jack Smith is deranged and claiming the actions of the day were meant to interfere with his 2024 presidential election. Before the indictment came down, he said, I hear that deranged Jack Smith, in order to interfere with the presidential election of 2024, will be putting out another fake indictment of your favorite president, me, at 5 p.m. Why don't they do this 2.5 years ago? Why did they wait so long? Because they wanted to put it right in the middle of my campaign. Prosecutorial misconduct. Isn't it interesting? I mean, you've got Jack Smith saying that Donald Trump interfered with the outcome of the election, and you have Donald Trump saying that that's exactly pretty much the same thing that Jack Smith is doing. He's interfering with an election. It is also interesting to note that this comes one day after bombshell testimony, absolute bombshell testimony comes from Devon Archer that seems to be bringing the whole investigation into Hunter Biden and by extension Joe Biden. Really seems to be moving that toward more and more impeachment territory. So we're going to have, it would appear to me, the way things are shaping up, big picture, we're going to have a Republican nominee who is indicted for the Mar-a-Lago documents, got all kinds of things going on here with regard to Jack Smith and the January 6th, and he's going to be facing other cases as well. And on the other side of the equation, if indeed Joe Biden becomes the nominee again, it looks like he might be in the middle of impeachment proceedings, because it seems like we're headed that way increasingly. So tit for tat. If you thought August was going to be dull, when I used to work in Washington, they said, don't worry, you're not going to be doing much in August. It really slows down. Nothing ever happens in August. I don't think that's going to be true, but this particular time around. Fast facts from Fox. Special counsel Jack Smith has been investigating whether Trump or other officials interfered with the peaceful transfer of power. The investigation included possible interference with the certification of the Electoral College vote on January 6th. Trump has maintained the investigation is a part of partisan witch hunt. So those are your new developments. And again, we're still just plowing through this, still trying to figure it all out. We're also going to be taking more of your comments coming up in the second half of this hour. So hang in there, everyone. Right now it is 30 minutes past the hour. Time for more news on Super Talk 99.7.
30 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Complete forecast, latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. Currently 90 degrees on Music Row. Former President Donald Trump has been indicted on 4 counts accused of trying to undermine the 2020 election. The grand jury agreeing with the prosecution that Mr. Trump knew he lost the election and tried to change the outcome. Legal analyst Dan Abrams points out the one charge that stands out to him.
Conspiracy against the right to vote and have one's vote counted. That's more of a catch-all one, where it's been used a number of times in the 20th century, which is interesting that it's about voter fraud. It's about basically saying, in other cases where people were stuffing ballots, et cetera, and saying that deprived everyone else of the right to have the votes counted fairly.
Mr. Trump has been summoned to appear before federal magistrate judge Thursday in Washington. And here in Tennessee, the brakes are being applied to the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway deal. Bristol Motor Speedway today requested a pause in consideration until after the election and a new mayor and council is seated. In some entertainment news, chart-topping music artist Lizzo being sued, accused of some very off-brand allegations. Jason Nathanson fills us in.
The truth could hurt for Lizzo. She's being sued by 3 former backup dancers, allegations including sexual, religious, and racial harassment, disability discrimination, false imprisonment, and other claims. The dancers say Lizzo's whole brand of body positivity is a lie, claiming they were fat-shamed and coerced into taking part in wild nights out in sexually provocative European clubs. An attorney for the plaintiffs called the actions illegal and demoralizing. So far, no comment from Lizzo or her team.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the folks over at Everseal. First of all, what is Everseal? That's a great question. Well, let me see if I can explain it for you. It's a sealant. It's been around for ages, used in industrial applications, and the folks over at Everseal figured out how to provide a permanent solution for sealing your exterior wood and concrete at a price that home and business owners can actually afford. Now, here's what will happen. The process starts with a deep cleaning. They go all the way down to make sure that your wood and concrete look as good as it possibly can look. And then they add their patented sealant that absorbs all the way through. It doesn't lay on top. It doesn't stick. It actually absorbs and becomes a part of the wood or concrete, and it will prevent any further deterioration. You ready? For the next 30 to 50 years. 30 to 50 years. Wow. That's something. If this sounds like something you would like to look at for your house, well, let me just, before we get there, think about how much money you'll save if you don't have to seal your concrete or your wood every year. Take about 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. See, this is a good thing. And why not just use your deck? Do it one time and be done. 1-844-EVER-USA. 844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com. 37 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Brian Wilson in the chair on the air on a very busy Tuesday, the August the 1st. We are still, getting breaking information. And the last hour, if you've been with us, Donald Trump has been indicted 4 counts with regard to activities surrounding January 6th. Now, I'm going to tell you that there's a lot to unpack there. And I don't know that he's got a good case. I think perhaps the special prosecutor, Jack Smith, is overreaching here. And I'll tell you why I feel that way in a bit. But let's not lose sight that this comes exactly one day after some pretty bombshell testimony came from Devon Archer, Devon, who was Hunter Biden's best friend, and was did I get that right? Devon,
it's
I can't remember which
Devon
one.
Archer, yeah.
Devon Archer. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. He gives pretty damning transcribed conversation with members of the House Oversight Committee to talk about the Hunter Biden business and how it related to the old man, the big guy. Let's not lose sight that this happened just yesterday, and now this is followed on by activity aimed at Donald Trump. I want you to listen before we go any further, because, when things happen, it takes about a day to shake loose all of the information. And what we're hearing today about Devon Archer's testimony, or I don't want to call it testimony because he wasn't sworn, but his conversation with the House Oversight Committee, it sounds as if James Comer, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, believes progress has been made.
Well, Devon Archer testified that they were influence peddling. We've wondered what the business was. I suspected it was influence peddling, but we heard today from someone on the inside, it was influence peddling. They sold Joe Biden. That's what the business was. And Joe Biden himself talked to every single person that has wired money to the Bidens. I mean, you've got a situation here where you look at those people who were wiring the money. A lot of those people aren't the most credible people in their countries. There are a lot of people who are in a lot of trouble in many of these countries who were sending wires to the Biden family.
They were just basically business thugs is what they were. These were not savory people that Hunter Biden was associated himself with.
They needed help. They needed help from the government. That's why they paid the Biden family. They were influence peddling. The FARA violations, that's Foreign Agents Registration Act, we know that Hunter Biden has violated that. Even the judge in Delaware last week cited that as one reason why she rejected the sweetheart plea deal. But what this did today, in my opinion, is open the door. Did Joe Biden violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act? Because he was an active participant in at least one deal we know of with the Burisma deal. He was actively participating in doing a benefit to this foreign agent for this foreign country, and he was withholding American tax dollars in the form of foreign aid for that. I mean, this is very serious. Today took a huge step towards implicating Joe Biden in many of these crimes. We're going to continue to press forward in our investigation.
He's right. He's absolutely 1,000% right. That's exactly what happened yesterday, and now today. Of course, we can't let it stand. We have to react somehow. And Democrats and the special counsel are now coming after Donald Trump for the events of January 6th. I admire George Washington law professor Jonathan Turley immensely. I don't know what his politics are, but I love his take on the law. And he has looked at this whole Hunter Biden thing, and now the testimony, the conversation that was had with Devon Archer, and he thinks there's some there. Listen to Jonathan Turley.
Well, from the accounts that we have gotten out of that meeting, they are breathtaking. You're talking about at least roughly 24 calls in which then Vice President Joe Biden engaged with the business associates of Hunter Biden. You're talking about meetings and dinners with some of the most corrupt figures in Europe. And Joe Biden calls in to say hi. They were talking about subjects like getting rid of the prosecutor in Ukraine, and then up pops a call from the vice president. You can no longer ignore this, despite the denials of many Democrats. What was really incredible was after hearing these statements, Representative Goldman came out and basically said, oh, he was just being a dad talking about niceties. Well, it's at some point it insults the intelligence of voters. You know, we're looking at one of the most significant corruption scandals in our history. And I've been a critic of influence peddling for decades. I've never seen anything like the scope of this scandal. And yet, you know, we'll have to see which members choose the public over their party. And so far, we haven't had a lot of them coming from the Democratic Party. The Biden family has been accused of influence peddling for years. The president's brother has been rather open in selling access to Joe Biden. So has Hunter. We saw that in some of these shocking messages where he was actually saying, I'm sitting next to my father, send me the money or we'll effectively ruin you. It was also evident in messages where Hunter Biden told his business associates, this is what we do. This is what the Bidens are good at. Well, it is what they're good at. They've made millions, but it's now falling apart because the Democrats lost control of the House and they have started to investigate these matters. And every day we reach a new shocking level of corruption.
You know, that last little bit there from Jonathan Turley is the thing that I'm struck by. I mean, every single time we get more information about Hunter Biden's business practices, what his partners were up to, and the connection to the big guy, the case against Joe Biden gets stronger and stronger and stronger. I think we are headed for an impeachment inquiry. That seems pretty certain that's going to happen. And I think that they're going to find, as they put it all together in sort of a timeline, as the House Oversight Committee keeps bringing new information. I mean, look at what we got so far against Joe Biden. We've got the transcript from Devon Archer that says, hey, about 20 times, Hunter Biden was in a meeting with these ne'er-do-wells from around the world, and he would call up his dad and put him on the speakerphone, and they only talked about the weather. I don't believe that one whit. I don't believe that one bit. Although they might have been cautious about the things they say on the phone, given that international phone calls are recorded by the NSA. I can understand why they might be hesitant to talk about things beyond that. But one way or the other, he would just by the very act of putting the phone on the table, Hunter Biden was demonstrating, I have access to the vice president of the United States. He's on my speed dial. Anytime I call, he answers. And a lot of these people needed things from the Obama administration, and Joe Biden was the point man on many of these areas, and they were taking full financial advantage of that. Full finance. Why else would you give millions of dollars to a crack addict? It didn't have anything to do with Hunter Biden. It had everything to do with access to his dad. That's the way the game was played. Just like I think it was over at the Clinton Foundation back when Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State. If you wanted to see Hillary over at the Secretary of State, it was widely known that you first have to give a call to Bill and make a donation to the Clinton Foundation. You make a donation to the Clinton Foundation, suddenly the doors at the Secretary of State's office were wide open to you. You go to the top of the line. And there's a lot of evidence that was going on. Same thing I think Joe Biden was witnessing. And he said, I've got to find a way to cash in on this before I go to retirement. And I think that's where this family scandal starts. Hunter Biden, we don't care about Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden's probably going to skate. Maybe he gets a stronger rap on the knuckle after the judge the other day had some questions about his plea deal. But we all of it, the House Oversight Committee is focusing deeply on Joe Biden. That's what they want to know. And there's going to be an impeachment inquiry, and I think that's going to lead to an impeachment hearing in the House. What happens beyond that, unknown. But that all could be happening in the fall and the spring. I just want to make sure that on a day when Donald Trump is indicted for the events of January 6th, that we don't lose sight of, the other things that are happening and how this is an attempt to draw your attention away. This will get big-time coverage in the mainstream media. The drip, drip, drip events of Hunter Biden largely ignored. But we're not through with this thing yet. We're not through. And the evidence that is being developed by the House Oversight Committee, the Judiciary Committee, and others in the House is pretty damning. So there we have that. So to recap, in case you are now just joining us, the big news of the afternoon is that former President Donald Trump has been indicted for 4 counts, and it all has to do with activity surrounding January 6th. But I just can't get past this other story here that makes me wonder if any of this is going to stick against Trump. A Pennsylvania judge ruled Monday that an election worker cannot sue former President Trump over statements he made sowing doubt in the 2020 election results while in office because the judge found that the statements are protected by presidential immunity. What else is protected by presidential immunity? I mean, if the statements don't apply here and things that Trump said don't apply in this particular case, why would it be different in this case over here that has just been brought against him by Jack Smith? Trump potentially faces, we are pleased with the court's decision to honor the long-standing principle of presidential immunity, Trump's legal spokeswoman Alina Habba said in a statement. Today, the court made it clear that it is well within the president's discretion to address the integrity of our election without fear of liability. We expect that the rest of Mr. Savage's claims will similarly be disposed of. He's talking about this Pennsylvania case. Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Isn't that impressive? Doesn't that not ring a bell? Does that not sound like perhaps Jack Smith's going to have a hard time making this stuff stick? Look, one thing that I am certain of is that the more you attack Donald Trump, the stronger he becomes. And that we will talk about that, I promise you, in the next hour. If you got something you want to say about this, 615-737-9986. And as we get to the 6 o'clock hour, I'm going to be taking your phone calls for quite a while as your reaction to all of these events. Right now, 5:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Maybe you're headed home right now and you're saying, man, I got a taste for a good steak. Well, why don't you go to Legend Steakhouse? That's right. Just go to legendsteakhouse.com to find the locations. Or if you want to do online menu ordering before you get there, that's fine too. But you might want to think about them for lunch as well, because I think lunch is where you want to be when it comes to Legend Steakhouse. Comes with 1 meat, 2 country cooked vegetables or casseroles. A meat and 2 is what we're calling it. You get cornbread muffins or yeast rolls. Some of the specialties for the main dish, fried pork chops, Smoky Mountain meatloaf, fried catfish, slow-cooked pot roast with gravy. And then they have 14 vegetables and casseroles to choose from. Start with broccoli casserole. I love broccoli casserole. Bourbon glazed apples, fried green tomatoes, potato casserole, black-eyed peas. You name it, I think you're going to find something you like there. It's good cooking the way Mom used to make it. In fact, these recipes came from Johnny's mother. He borrowed the recipe book some 30 years ago and, quite frankly, just never gave it back. Legend Steakhouse, multiple locations across Middle Tennessee. Good food for a fair price. Go to legendsteakhouse.com for locations for online menu ordering. You're going to love your next visit to the Legend Steakhouse.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.
Let me tell you about the folks over at DT McCall, 5 convenient locations in Middle Tennessee. And how do you find them? You go to dtmccall.com. That's how you find them. And why would you want to go there? Well, I'll tell you, because they got a huge selection of appliances, a huge selection of furniture, just about anything you might imagine for your home. You're going to find it at DT McCall's. And here's the thing. They deal with you honestly. I mean, after all, they've been around for 100 years. You don't make it more than 100 years without treating people right, and that's their reputation. They don't play games. I mean, you go to a big box store and you say, that appliance, what's the price on that? They give you a price. You say, okay, that's a pretty good deal. And then they ask you, well, do you want cords and the hoses that make it work? Well, of course you do. Hey, do you want the thing delivered? Well, of course you do. Do you want it paid for the haul away? Of course you do. And then they add a little bit to that original price they gave you, and you'll find out that really wasn't such a good price after all. DT McCall gives you an honest price. It's a good price, and you'll get free delivery, free setup, and free haul away. And by the way, DT McCall's does whatever they can to sell products that were made and manufactured right here in Tennessee, keeping the dollars local. What's not to like about that? Find out about their 5 convenient locations and all the things that they can do for your house by simply going to dtmccalls.com.
Six o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 88 degrees, forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Former President Trump has been indicted on 4 counts accused of trying to undermine the 2020 election. Special counsel Jack Smith made a statement this evening on the matter.
The attack on our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021 was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election.
The 4 counts are conspiracy to defraud the United States government, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction and attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Mr. Trump has been summoned to appear before federal magistrate judge Thursday in Washington. And now over to some local breaking news. A Fort Campbell soldier who was charged with murdering his wife and harming their unborn child, Sergeant Joe Santiago, has been found guilty. This is from Channel 4, and according to a public affairs officer with the 101st Airborne. Now over to another crime story here in Nashville. Police on the lookout for 2 people after a man was shot and killed inside of his apartment in East Nashville this morning. Channel 4 Sharon Dankwa lets us know more.
It happened right here on South 5th Street. One woman says she heard about 5 gunshots, and seconds later, her best friend screaming. Tony Bright says she had just gone upstairs to use the bathroom. She left her friend in her living room and heard what sounded like people coming in. She closed the bathroom door and says the next thing she knew, guns were going off. She dropped to the floor before hearing her friend, 29-year-old Eric Reed, screaming, "They shot me."
Reed was transported to Vanderbilt Medical Center where he died. Officials are now looking for the shooter. And staying here in Nashville, the brakes are being applied to the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway deal.
The Tennessean says Bristol Motor Speedway today requested a pause in consideration of a renovation deal to bring back NASCAR to Music City. Bristol Motor Speedway President Jerry Caldwell says there's not enough time before the current mayor and council term expires for everyone to fully consider it. But he says he's confident the deal will move forward in the next term. The 30-year deal calls for a 30,000-seat structure, building a sound wall, enhancing the track's infield. Bristol would bring a NASCAR event back to the Speedway every other year and continue other racing events up to 10 weekends per year. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
In entertainment news, fueled by Barbenheimer, theater chains, breaking records. Here's Jason Nathanson.
Okay, ladies, let's do this.
And the ladies and men going to the theater to see Barbie, Oppenheimer, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, and more have given Cinemark its best box office month ever in North America. The company says in a statement that July was Cinemark's highest grossing month in company history, but it didn't give numbers. The news comes on the heels of AMC saying the 7 days following Barbie and Oppenheimer's premiere was the biggest box office week in the company's 103-year history.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding.
Well, it happened, and Donald Trump said it was going to happen, and it happened. About 5 o'clock this afternoon, an indictment handed up by Jack Smith, special prosecutor. He's been the special prosecutor on the documents case out of Mar-a-Lago, special prosecutor on January 6th. These charges relate to January 6th, and I got to tell you, the first blush read of this stuff, I've been spending some time. It's a 45-page indictment, and I'm not a lawyer. But let me just say this. As I look through it, this seems pretty thin. This seems like pretty thin gruel. And what they have done is basically, I think they've tried to say that the former president of the United States does not have any First Amendment rights. And there's a whole nother story out there that suggests that another case has found that in Pennsylvania, this all comes down as this case in Pennsylvania, a judge there has ruled that a lot of the charges that they were trying to bring against him had to be kicked out because he has presidential immunity for the things that he says while he's president. One way or the other, I'm not sure this thing holds up. Andrew McCarthy says it's weak. Jonathan Turley says that it's weak. And, I'm no Turley or McCarthy, but I can tell you, as a reporter, I've read a lot of indictments. I don't think this is all that much to it. One way or the other, though, they're gonna go down this path. I think at the end, anybody can hand down an indictment. You can, the old saying is, you get a good prosecutor in the room, and he can get an indictment from the grand jury on a ham sandwich. You can indict a ham sandwich. Where did that come from? I don't know, but I'd like to know the history. But that's an old saying. It's not much to get an indictment. The question is, can you make it stick? And I don't know that there's any there. But one way or the other, 4 additional counts now brought against former President Donald Trump with regard to the events of January 6th. Now, I want to know a couple of things, but mostly I want to know what you have to say about this. 615-737-9986. Because I have a feeling, and we've already heard from a lot of people here today, but the feeling I have is that you're going to be angry, that this continues to hack you off, and doesn't change your opinion about Donald J. Trump one whit. So while you're calling in, it's 615-737-9986 to give me your take on all of this. Does it change your opinion of Donald Trump? What do you think about it? Are you angry? I want to hear from you, 615-737-9986. Let's listen a little bit more to Jack Smith, who spoke about 30 minutes ago.
The indictment was issued by a grand jury of citizens here in the District of Columbia, and it sets forth the crimes charged in detail.
By the way, it's interesting to note where that grand jury was seated. It was seated in the District of Columbia. Very, very, very blue.
I encourage everyone to read it in full. The attack on our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021 was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election.
Jack Smith talking about the results of this, his grand jury indictment, 4 indictments against former President Donald Trump. To the phone lines we go. I got one phone line open, 615-737-9986. James in Lebanon. James, you're on with Brian on the Drive. James, tell me how you feel about this new development.
Well, first of all, I'm going to try to keep it clean because...
yeah, do that, please.
I try not to really watch a lot of TV. I love y'all's show. I listen to 99.7 all the time, and then on an app I have on my phone because I drive a truck. But, this Jack Smith guy, he's nothing but he's involved with the Biden mob crew. So is George Soros, and it's getting bad. It's getting so bad. I honestly do not believe that half of the moronic Democrats even believe some of this stuff. I mean, if he goes to the bathroom and doesn't do what they want him to do, they're going to try to write him up for something. But as far as I'm concerned, unless they show film of him shooting somebody, he is the only one that is not a politician. He is a proven commodity to what he can and will do. I will not consider no one else under any circumstances. Donald J. Trump needs to be number 47. It's that simple. If you want to fix the problems that are out there, and this time, I hope he knows he needs, they said they wanted to clean the swamp.
Yep.
Well, don't sweep it. Not just sweep it. Mop it, too. Clean it. Clean it out. That means McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Romney. That means them all. Get them all out.
All right. James is fired up today. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. Suzanne in Goodlettsville. Do I have that right? Suzanne, you're up next with Brian on the Drive.
Yes, Brian. Hey, how are you? I'll just keep it short and simple, and tell me if you think this is correct as well. From what I understand, the reason that they are bringing these charges against President Trump is because the 14th Amendment states that if they can prove that he was involved in an insurrection, then they can keep him running for office. So I'll hang up and I'll let you respond to that.
Yeah, look, this is deep constitutional stuff, and really, make it stick. When lawyers are filing motions and they're going before the judge and they're throwing evidence out, and I think that you have basically said with this indictment that a former president does not have First Amendment rights. And I don't think it's going to go that far. I don't think it's going to last that long. And I think a lot of the stuff that's in here will be thrown out before the process ever gets to trial. But we're going to be hearing a lot about it. Because it is an attempt to have an impact on the election. I think the former president is right. Thanks, Suzanne. Ricky in Watertown. Ricky, you're on with Brian on the Drive. We got a couple of open lines if you want to get involved. What's up? What do you think there, Ricky?
I'm all with President Trump. And if you notice, every time stuff starts being brought up about the Biden clan, that's when they bring all these new indictments up. I mean, I'm sorry. They need to go after Joe and his son instead of Trump. Get something that, you can prove.
It is not lost on you and many other people that just yesterday, bombshell testimony from Devon Archer with regard to the Hunter Biden enterprise and how it connected to the old boy, to the old guy, to the big guy. And, and now today, this. I think a very astute observation there, Ricky from Watertown. Larry in Clarksville. Larry, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the Drive. Larry, what do you think?
Well, Brian, first of all, salute to you from an old Cold War U.S. Air Force sergeant. Tennessee is very happy and glad to have you here.
Well, thank you.
And, this, and I don't want to be put on super secret probation, so I'm going to watch my language.
Yeah.
But, and it's just like the last caller said, every time a bombshell is about to be dropped on the Bidens, somebody brings out new charges.
Yep.
And, the only thing it makes me want to do is to vote for that young man again.
By that young man, you mean Donald Trump. Okay, gotcha.
Yes, sir. And listen, thank you, brother. Thank you for what you do, and I salute you.
Well, thank you much. That's very kind of you, Larry. I greatly appreciate it. Let's see. Dan in Kingston Springs. Dan, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Dan?
I say that a vote for Donald Trump is a vote against political bullying.
And so, how angry are you right now, Dan?
I'm just angry enough to vote for him no matter what happens.
All right. See, that's what I'm saying. All right. Thank you for all that, Dan. Greatly appreciate that. This is what I'm saying. As there are so many people right now within the sound of my voice who are fed up and angry that I guarantee you that within the next week or so, we're going to see that the numbers, the poll numbers for Donald Trump go up yet again. And if past his prologue, what we're going to see is the numbers will come from the second person, and that would be DeSantis. DeSantis' numbers are starting to fade, and some of it is going to Trump, some's going to other people. But by and large, every single time something has been thrown at Donald Trump, his numbers go up. And so, I would say it more solidifies his likelihood of becoming the Republican nominee, although his chances already were pretty good. He is the Obi-Wan Kenobi of politics.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Listen, have you noticed just how unreliable things have become these days? Like when someone tells you it'll be ready at 4 p.m. and it's not. People are really tired of that kind of stuff. And if you've had it with unreliable vehicle repair shops, come to Eurofix. Eurofix will have your vehicle ready when it's really supposed to be ready, so you don't have to stand around waiting. Eurofix repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer without dealer pricing. That's because dealer repair shops are designed to pay almost all of a dealership's overhead, and that's a lot of money. Why would you want to pay for that? At Eurofix, reliable means a 3-year nationwide warranty plus a free loaner car with every repair. Make sure you call ahead because loaner cars are very popular. If you're tired of unreliable repair shops, come to where it's reliable. Come to Eurofix, family-owned for 24 years. Just call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com. It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. You know, so many things are breaking, and this is so complex. We're still trying to put it all together. But the former President Trump, has been charged with 4 counts in a special counsel's January 6th case. Fascinating story. I'm pulling it up now. This is from the Washington Examiner. A federal grand jury in Washington indicted former President Donald Trump on Tuesday over matters relating to the January 6th riot at the Capitol and alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The indictment is largely hinged on the allegation that Trump was aware his words and actions were based on falsities. It states that from roughly November 14th, 2020 to January 20th, 2021, Trump did knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree with co-conspirators known and unknown to the grand jury to injure, oppress, threaten, and intimidate one or more persons in the free exercise and enjoyment of a right and privilege secured to them by the Constitution and laws of the United States. That is the right to vote and to have one's vote counted. That is the allegation. It's almost as if, what I'm hearing here is Donald Trump, when he was president, I think truly believed with every fiber of his being that the election was fixed and that he won. I think he believed that with every fiber of his being. Now, I don't know. You may feel that way too. I'm not sure where I am on that. I'm not sure that they made an absolute conclusive case or whether the fix was in. I'm not sure one way or the other. He believed it. He believed it with every fiber of his being. How can you, as a special prosecutor, get into the mindset of a president who's sitting there and what he believed and what he did not believe? How can you possibly prove what he believed, what was in his mind, how his mindset was? I don't think you can. I don't think you can. Look, I don't know where to take this any further except to say the indictment looks weak to me. It raises real questions about whether or not they can make this case. Some of the brightest people that I turn to for analysis have already said that this is a pretty weak, pretty thin, and it's really designed more for political purposes than for anything else. Will they get a conviction? I don't think so. I think they're going to find, as we get deeper and deeper into the thing, that a lot of the things that they have alleged, and they got a very blue D.C. grand jury to sign off on, really won't stand up in a court of law. I think it's beginning to look as if a lot of that will evaporate by the time we ever get to trial, if indeed we get to trial. This is political. This is a reaction to what happened yesterday when the news was bad for the Bidens. Well, we can't have that. We got to have something else out there, because now, we have to throw something at Trump. As I look at it right now, the things that they're trying to get Trump on seem pretty thin gruel. And on the other side, and this is not just because I'm a conservative, as I look at what they're building against Joe Biden, it's looking stronger and stronger each and every day. I think there's a pretty good chance Joe Biden gets, at least impeached. I don't know whether he gets convicted, but he gets impeached, because there's a lot of stuff out there that raises real questions, and Democrats know this. Everybody, you talk to any Democrat, you ask them what they think about Hunter Biden and was the old man on the take. A lot of Democrats are supporting Joe Biden because they don't have another option, not because they love Joe Biden. So this is, I think, getting interestinger, and I'm telling you, if you thought August was going to be a slow time, get ready, buckle up. It's going to be good. We're already into the first day of August, and we've got all of this shaken, and I don't think we're done yet. Let's call it 30 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, it is 33 minutes after the hour. Hey, we want to welcome Chris Weber to the Wellness Institute family. You'll be doing some of their spots. You've been a chance to go down and talk to Dr. Mitchell in the last few days, and you'll be also talking about the advantages of the Wellness Institute of Nashville.
Yeah, that's right, Brian. I'm really excited about it. Got the tour of the great facility out there the other day from Dr. Ashley, actually, and just totally impressed. And I'm ready to and glad to be a part of the Wellness Institute family here on WTN.
And there's a huge. I mean, this people don't understand what a really remarkable facility this is. I mean, it's really something else. Dr. Kevin Mitchell and Dr. Ashley Mitchell now offering something new and different. You've heard about the non-surgical spinal decompression. Well, what about this KT machine? Did you see that? It's like spinal decompression for your knee. It elongates the knee and the joint and allows the meniscus and cartilage to receive the healing treatment without the need for surgery or painkillers. It's cutting-edge stuff. I think you'd agree.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, listen, take advantage of the 2023 special, exam, consultation, and x-rays if needed, or bring an MRI report for Dr. Mitchell to look over. He'll go over your condition. He'll come up with a plan. The first consultation is $23 and only for new patients. You're going to love your visit to the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Find out about all the things they can do for you to help you with your pain by going to their website, painisbad.com, or call them and set up an appointment right away, 615-246-5009. Hey, it's 37 minutes now, past the hour of 6 o'clock. We're in the last little bit of our show. You know the headlines from today. Donald Trump has been hit with 4 indictments with regards to January 6th. It's going to take a little while for us to go through the 48 pages and figure out what might stick, what might not stick, what the assessment was. But the initial read from the legal beagles is it's pretty thin, and I think it is. So we'll let that percolate We've spent a lot of time talking about it on the show today. We'll let it percolate, and we'll come to it again tomorrow and see how the whole thing has shaken out. I think it's going to be a very interesting 24 hours. But I don't think there's a lot there, is the way it reads to me. I don't know how you can say that a president cannot have a First Amendment rights. And I don't know how in the world you get into the mindset of someone to determine what they were thinking at the time. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So in the last bit, we want to cover a lot of other ground. I have a bunch of stories here that I think all of them are sort of interesting, and I think they're helpful and news that you need to know. So we're going to just mash them all together. You ready to squish some stories there, Chris? Okay, here we go. What is included in Tennessee's 3-month grocery tax holiday, which begins today? This is for between now and I think Halloween, no taxes on groceries. The second leg of Tennessee's back-to-back sales tax holidays is now underway. With the traditional sales tax holiday ending, comes the 3-month sales tax holiday that began today. The General Assembly has approved the 3-month grocery holiday tax. Began today at 12:01, ends at midnight on Halloween. Woo. What's included? Food and food ingredients. Sales of prepared food, dietary supplements, candy, alcoholic beverages, and tobacco not included.
Oh.
Food and food ingredients. No, too bad. Food and food ingredients are defined as liquid, concentrated, solid, frozen, dried, dehydrated substances that are sold to be in, this is the legal definition of food, to be ingested or chewed by humans and are consumed for their taste or nutritional value.
Wow.
Food and food ingredients do not include alcoholic beverages, tobacco, candy, or dietary supplements. But all that other stuff that you chew by humans, consume for their taste or nutritional value, you can knock yourself out. That's story number one. Story number two. A judge has ruled against Metro in its case over the new state law that created a different airport authority board. The law was seen as targeting Metro government, which until now had the authority to appoint people to the board. Now it's up to the governor and state lawmakers. A judge said Metro did not file the temporary injunction soon enough. Seems to be the reason. Here's another version of it. A 3-judge panel says it won't stop Tennessee officials from taking over Nashville's airport operations while a lawsuit challenging the recently enacted statute allowing the change moves forward. In a decision handed down Monday, the judges criticized, according to Fox 17, Nashville city leaders for inexplicably waiting weeks before they asked the court to block the law. City officials had been aware of possible legal issues since Republican lawmakers proposed the legislation, which was signed into law into May, but did not seek a temporary injunction until hours before it was set to take effect on July 1st. Now, the judges have stressed that the ruling should not be construed as indicative of our views on the merits of Metro's constitutional claims, leaving open the possibility it could be successfully challenged at some point. But for now, the state is in charge of the airport, it would seem. I got this press release today from Representative Green, who I really do like Representative Mark Green. I think he's doing a great job. He says that he's introducing the Protecting Hunting Heritage and Education Act after the Biden administration barred archery and hunting programs from receiving federal education funding. Here's what Green says. Children in Tennessee schools should not be prevented from receiving safety and skills training in archery, hunting, and other shooting sports by the Biden administration. The classes President Biden wants to defund aren't only about hunting archery, they're about teaching young Americans how to respect nature and to focus on a goal. The Biden administration decision to strip funding of these important classes doesn't just miss the mark, it misses the entire target. I got it. The attack, there you go. I have another additional statement. Washington bureaucrats have no idea what Tennesseans value, and they shouldn't be putting their elitist, out-of-touch values on people in Tennessee. Hunting is still one of the oldest and most cherished traditions in our state, despite President Biden's attempt to destroy it. That statement provided to us by Representative Mark Green. Half of Democrats say Biden should be replaced by someone else for the 2024. Isn't this interesting? I keep telling you, support for Joe Biden in the Democrat Party is about an inch deep, but it's maybe a mile wide, but it's an inch deep. Half of Democrat primaries think the party should nominate someone else. Half. This according to a New York Times Siena College poll. There is no support for Biden to run for re-election. It's just that, Democrats are going to put their name, whoever seems to be out there, and right now he's the only one out there. I stand by my prediction. Joe Biden is not going to be the nominee. And I don't know how it's going to emerge. I don't know how it's going to happen. But Democrats are not going to stand by as their candidate looks weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and just do nothing. They won't. They can't. They won't let Joe Biden be the nominee because Joe Biden is increasingly beginning to look as if there's no way he can win. Our next story. Some black men are losing faith in Biden and Democrats in 2024. We had a caller to this effect earlier today. The gentleman said, I'm an African-American individual. I am black, and I remember how good I had it with Trump. And that very much follows this story that has been put out there by Reuters. Many black voters had expected that Biden and Democrats would push new federal protections, but I think it's really economic. I think black men feel like they did very well under Donald Trump. Minority unemployment was at the lowest it's been in forever. And as this guy, I think, enunciated today, he made very clear, I'm going to vote for Trump because I did well under Trump. But the story suggests that black men may be ready to walk away from Joe Biden and the Democrats in 2024. I'm waiting. Biden approval at 39% in some polls. This is another poll, Just the News, reporting. 45% of Democrat voters say the 80-year-old commander-in-chief should be renominated. Only 39% say different. His approval rating is at 39%. Not good. Here's another one. I want to talk about oil for a minute. A couple of oil stories that I think are very important. Number one is that in the state of Tennessee, over the past week, you may have noticed it at the pump, if you pay attention to this thing, gas prices rapidly rising in Tennessee, according to AAA. AAA reports over the last week, gas prices in the volunteer state have jumped by 21 cents, bringing the average cost per gallon to $3.38 a gallon. It is $3.44, make that $3.44 in Nashville, $3.44 in Memphis, Cleveland $3.43. The cheapest is in Morristown, $3.26. Kingsport, $3.29. Knoxville, $3.31. But it's going up, and you can't help but notice. Why is it going up? Well, a lot of people have a lot of ideas about this, but I think this one's right. And this is one of the things, and it has to do with what has been going on with the Biden administration and the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Gas Buddy head of petroleum analysis Patrick DeHaan says that refilling the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is pushing up oil prices. He also noted that Russia and Saudi Arabia cut production is another reason for the jump in oil prices. And quite frankly, one of the reasons that they cut was because we were just until recently continuing to bring oil out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Dr. Hahn states the increase in oil prices is helping drive the gas price surge, and this oil price surge has to do with Russia and Saudi Arabia cutting oil production. In addition, we've seen heat-related outages at some of the largest refineries in Texas and Louisiana at a time that gasoline demand is at its highest and gasoline inventories are at their lowest levels since July of 2015. Wow. Up until the end of July, or up until the end of June, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve was releasing oil almost on a weekly basis, which was helping to add supply to the market, which is one of the reasons why Saudi Arabia and Russia cut production. But now the release from the SPRs have ended, and that's actually probably pushing prices up because the SPR is now slowly being refilled. You can't leave it. It was never supposed to be used for political purposes. It's the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. The idea of the SPR is you tap into, okay, maybe you have a hurricane in the Gulf and all the offshore oil rigs are down for a while. And maybe that knocked out a couple of refineries. That's where you call in your Strategic Petroleum Reserve. But why did the Biden administration do it? They released a lot of oil and put a glut of oil on the market. It was an artificial glut that they put there to drive down the price of gasoline and oil in an election year. And they continued to do it. And now you got to pay it back. And I don't see this ending well. I see this with oil prices going up dramatically. We continue to fill up the SPR, which, by the way, is at the lowest level it has been since 1983. Thank you, Joe Biden, for that. Finally, climate change hasn't set the world on fire. You hear this all the time. People are saying, well, there's all these fires around the world. But here's the thing. Since the early 2000s, according to the Wall Street Journal, when the world's land caught fire, 3% of the world's land was on fire. In the early 2000s, on an annual basis, it averaged out 3% of the world's land had been on fire. But ever since then, since the early 2000s, the amount of land on fire has gone down. It is now at about 2.3%. So if you hear that climate change is causing more and more land to catch on fire, that would be wrong. 50 minutes now past the hour. Let's talk about United Structural Systems. You know, we had a lot of rain, heavy rain over the last few weeks, but if it caused you any problems around your house, you've got waterproofing issues, you have structural foundation issues because of all the rain, well, you need to reach out to USS, United Structural Systems. They're the company that I would go to. They've been around for about 25 years. They aren't going anywhere. When it comes to large home repairs and especially when you're talking about waterproofing and foundation repair, a lot of people don't want to know what they're in for. They're afraid, well, it could be a big thing that needs to be fixed. Well, that's true. It could also be a small problem that would become bigger if you don't take action. Or you might find it's nothing at all. What you need is good advice, and that comes from USS. Over 25,000 satisfied residential customers. They come out, they take a look, they tell you what they think is the best plan, and if you'd agree, then you don't pay a penny until the job is done, and you're completely satisfied. USS, as I said, has been in business for 25 plus years. They guarantee their best at USS, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com, or call this number, 615-488-7855.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Winkler. The financial world can be full of landmines for investors. On the one hand, investment firms and the financial community will often overcomplicate the financial planning process to confuse investors. As one guy who used to work a big investment firm once told me, if an investor thinks that they're over their head, they'll blindly trust you. And it's easier to sell to them. I'm glad I'm away from that. On the other hand, many people oversimplify investing to the detriment of investors. Just having a little knowledge can be really dangerous. The idea there is the same. It's just a different way of selling things. At Paul Winkler Inc., we like working alongside our clients with an education guidance approach. I believe that there's confidence that comes with knowing what you're doing and why. We abide by the very highest level of fiduciary care, and we use the most sophisticated financial planning tools out there. And Every one of our offices is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of college. If that sounds like a winning formula, set up a free 15-minute phone call to learn more. Go to paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. You can do this.